Shalom to the elect of Israel, to the whole flock of Israel, you Hebrew Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, and Haitians. Got to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah. The Most High, the Heavenly Father, his Hebrew name is Yahweh. Not Yahweh, not Jehovah, not God, not Elohim, not Mosai, not Lord, not Yah, not Jah, not Ahai, not Allah, not Abba, not Yahuwah. It's Yahweh. And his only begotten son name in the Hebrew is Yahweh Shah. Not Yahshua, not Yeshua, not Jesus Christos, not Jesus Christ, not Serapis Christos, not Yeshaya, not Yehoshua, not Yehusha. It's Yahweh Shah. So got to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah, Bahashem Rekah Korash. Double honors to the apostles, and the bishop, and elders of great millstone, who rule well, who teach well, who are the apostles and elders of all of Israel, whether accepted or not. And a sincere salutation to all the Akim, pushing the truth and believing this truth of the four winds of the earth, the entire world, shedding light to the whole elect. Shalom to the Akwa who are listening learning. If you sister are listening learning. And my Zai from Jim Leno account coming at you another lesson, truth, facts, faith, and edification. Another daily edification, Lord, which we edifying. So, I'm going to title this lesson, The Last Empire of the Idumeans. Lord, what's we edifying? The last empire of the so-called white man, the Edomites, the Idumeans.
When an empire declines, a variety of things have typically happened. Number one, overreach. That is a general term in which the empire declines, and as it does, it tries to solve too many problems in too many of the far-flung reaches of the empire, and it can solve one or two of them, but it misunderstands what it means for that empire to decline. What it means is you can't do all those things. You may have been able to do them 20 years ago, or 40 or 60, but you cannot anymore. I believe that what we're watching is the American empire declining as the British Empire and so many other empires before it declined, engaging in overreach. And here's what I mean. We fought a war in Korea back in the early 1950s. We couldn't finish it. And so Korea was left cut in half to one side, half to the other. In Vietnam, we tried the same game with an already split system because the French weren't strong enough to prevent the cutting of the country the way it happened. And the United States failed again. Only this time the failure was no split country left. Vietnam became a unified country under the leadership of Ho Chi Minh, the leader of the Vietnamese Communist Party. In Afghanistan, we were defeated again, and the country is now run by the Taliban, which was the ostensible enemy. I could go on, but I won't. I'll draw the conclusion. You can't do what it is this country sets out to do. It's not within your power. It may have been after World War II. We really were at the top of the mountain at that time, and there's an argument that we were for the rest of the 20th century. But you cannot make that argument now. The dollar is everywhere, becoming less and less important. It was once as good as or better than gold in the central banks across the world. It isn't anymore. It's barely half their reserves, down from much, much more than that. More and more trade is conducted not in the dollar, as it once was, but in other currencies. Not just the euro, but also the Japanese yen, Chinese yuan, and so on. What's my point? Israel is an outpost of the United States Empire. It was literally the creation of the British Empire beforehand, and it was handed off from a ward, if you like, of the British Empire into becoming a ward of the United States Empire. Israel exists because the United States supports it financially, economically, politically, culturally, and militarily. Never more so than right now. Can the United States afford to do that? My answer, and I believe this is the majority view in the United States, is a resounding and a clear no. And the reason for that is there is no end in sight. there will be generations of hostility between Israel and the Palestinians. What has just happened since October guarantees it. Now that will be extended to include not only the Palestinians of the south in the Gaza Strip, but the Palestinians of the north in West Bank, and now the people of Lebanon. And who knows how far this will go? Will the Israelis really want to be in a state of bitter hostility with their Arab neighbors indefinitely? Well, if that's what they want, that's what they're getting. And their only safety already is and will continue to be drawing the United States into a participation with them as far as they can.
And that's what prophecies say. In Jeremiah 50:45, the least of the flock shall draw them out. He shall make their habitation desolate with them.
Cannot win this alone. They probably can't win it with the United States. But without the United States, it's over in a heartbeat. By the way, the same is true in Ukraine. That is only winnable if the United States pours even more than it already has, because what the United States has poured in clearly failed again. You can see where the battle lines are in Ukraine. The Israelis are on, if I were a shrink, I would call it a death trip. There's something here that is really so far out of the range of a reasonable policy that you begin to wonder what kind of mentality would keep going in this direction. The United States currently maintains somewhere between 700 and 800 bases abroad. And the entity that does that is the Department of Defense. All of that, we are told, and the whole world is told, is done for defense. Is there a defense component in it? Sure. But is there an offensive component? Equally sure. That's how you guarantee the dominance of the United States in its empire since the end, at least, of World War II, if not some years before. The Israelis have an ongoing struggle with the Palestinians that dates from the beginning of the country of Israel, as people who know the history know. To think that all of this is about the aggressive Palestinians and the defensive Israelis is to take seriously the kind of propaganda that even the people who put it out, when you talk to them privately, don't do. Here's a joke. More Israelis are clear that that's not true than Americans. They put out that propaganda for foreign consumption. Inside Israel, by the way, in recent weeks and days as well, massive street protests and other kinds of protests of huge numbers of Israelis who don't agree with this policy, didn't agree with what they did in Gaza, want Mr. Netanyahu out of office, want a reversal of the politics he represents. I mean, in America, you get people shut down for saying this. But inside Israel, you can say these critical things, and large numbers of people do, and the government dares not shut it down. At that point, Mr. Netanyahu has no options anymore unless he has a nuclear weapon and is prepared to explode it where he would decide to do it. He has no chips. The man is out of chips. That's why he needs the United States. What is he going to do? Go to war perpetually? Israel is a small country. The Arab world is a very large place. Palestinians are a small part of it. The whole Arab world is united on this question, more so than ever before. Do they want to fight with Israel? No. Clearly, they're afraid and they're hesitant. I understand that. But there's no solution here other than sitting down and working out an agreement. Otherwise, you have perpetual war. People like Netanyahu think that that's an option. It isn't. Any more than for Mr. Zelensky, that's an option.
It is an option. It's the option of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, and His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shah. Now, this video from Richard Wolff is titled, "It's Going to Get Worse and Worse." Now, let me go to this.
There is now over. The powers of people who have lived through the decline of empires
This one is titled,
should not see.
This one is titled, "The End of the American Empire." Let's run it back.
is now over. The powers of people who have lived through the decline of empires to not see the decline of their empire is stunning. If you want the greatest example now, just go to England. They still haven't figured it out, half of them, that empire is, even though literally it's gone, all that's left is to send the children of the king or queen periodically to a place like, I don't know, Kenya, and have them hand out British flags to little children who give them bouquets, and then they leave. That's it. The shell of a performance that nobody takes seriously. Anyway, the American Empire is over. The American Empire is founded on an American capitalism that is in a new declining phase. And here's my argument. It is shaping the consciousness of the American people. Everyone in different ways. It is having double the effect because it can't be spoken. Every psychologist will tell you trauma is a bad thing to have in your life. A trauma that you cannot talk about. The only hope to ameliorate it, to soften its impact, is have it talk about it. Talk about it with your parents, talk about it with a relative, talk about it with a psychologist, talk about it with a therapist. You've got to get, sooner or later, or to say the same thing in another aphorism that psychologists like. You want to get over it? The only way over it is to go through it. You have to do that, which is painful and difficult, makes people shy away. Anyway, that's my argument. My argument is that whether you're trying to understand Trumpism or MAGAism, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at the working class coming to terms slowly, painfully, with as much resistance as they can muster to facing this. They don't want to see it. Look, part of me empathizes. I mean, who wants to be, I'm in the middle of a declining empire. You don't want this. You want people who will distract you from that, because it's a nagging worry already in the back of your mind. You have occasional dreams about it. You have occasional moments when something, a story on a newspaper, image flashing across your internet screen, that might be going on. The war in Ukraine is lost. In America, not yet. It's lost. Literally, I watched the New York Times or the Washington Post, the losing army, desperate to hold on to whatever support it can get from the West, takes a group of its military, which it has a shortage of, and makes a break into an undefended part of Russia. Kursk, if you're following. That's pointless. It's hopeless. Has nothing to do with war. The desperation is written all over it. It'll be over in 2 weeks. Now, I read French and German newspapers. I have an advantage. With the internet, I can read in my own other languages as easy as I can pick up an American paper. Here it is. The level of propaganda is horrific. But people should remember, propaganda, like everything else, rises and falls. You need propaganda. In the middle of a war, you need to mobilize your people so the enemy is an awful, horrible monster beast, and you are beautiful vanilla. I get that. But we all get it, right? We understand in a war you have to we're all together. But there's a pattern to propaganda, which the literature on this subject has made very clear. And one of the key sources of propaganda is weakness. You're losing the situation, and you comfort yourself, just like eating too much or 100 other ways that we comfort ourselves if we're under too much stress. For a country that had 75, maybe 100 years of global dominance, certainly since the Second World War, but even earlier, but certainly since so that's a long, that's 75 years roughly, right? So total dominance. I mean, nobody was close. I explained to people, because I'm an economist, the Soviet Union was never an economic competitor of the United States. I give them a statistic, because Americans don't know, because they could find it out in 2 seconds. What is a GDP? You know, the GDP gross, right? It's a rough economics measure of the size of an economy, the footprint, total output of goods and services in a calendar year. So the GDP of the United States right now, $24 trillion. The GDP of Russia right now, $1.5 trillion. Do you understand? To think of the Soviet Union as an economic competitor means you're ignorant. China is the new empire. That's it. It's over. It's been over for 10, 15 years, and it becomes more over every minute. It's a phenomenon that is in no way hidden and in no way difficult to discern. I'll give you an example. This year, like every one of the last 30.
You see, we mention this a lot. These Edomites, they mention a lot of things that's going on, but the Lord didn't give them the wisdom, because he just mentioned Ezekiel 38 about Russia, which is Russia's a guard to the nations. They can tell you what's happening. They can tell you what's going on, but they don't know why it's really happening. They can give you some aspect of what's going on and why it's happening, but they don't understand that it's from Yahweh Shema Shah. But he's mentioning the scriptures, not understanding. And this is why we listen to these videos and filter it through the scriptures. But it's all prophecy of the fall of America, the last Edomite empire.
The GDP is growing faster in China than here, usually double or triple. This year, the United States will grow 2.5%. China will grow 5%. That's the normal relationship. Been going on for a generation. It's over. It's just over. There is a question. The Chinese say they don't want an empire. Now, on the one hand, that could be unbelievable wisdom. Could be, especially in China, because they had an empire once. They actually are looking at the second time. The United States never had that. That's a new situation. They want a multipolar world. Xi Jinping says it. He says it repeatedly. And he doesn't say it with a twinkle in his eye. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but maybe we're on the cusp of a different way of organizing the world. We don't have the American Empire, the British Empire, the Dutch Empire, Persian Empire, Greek Empire, Roman Empire. Maybe not. But the American Empire is over. And there's...
See? And he mentioned the British with Israel and America. And it was the British that set up the 1948ers with the Balfour Declaration to establish the state of Israel. It was the British, man. Just like America came out of Great Britain. It ain't no coincidence that they the same ones that America came out of, the same ones that established the state of Israel, man. See?
There's no precedent here. Nobody has prepared the American people. What do you do if the
Nope.
ride up, which was a good ride for 75 years, rising standard of living, whatever it is, all of these things are now. And it comes from the change in the world economy. The G7, U.S. and its major allies, is now a smaller aggregate GDP than the BRICS.
Yep.
Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. That's the original BRICS. That's 20 years old. And they have recently been joined by 6 other countries,
Yep.
including Iran,
Yep.
Saudi Arabia, Egypt,
Yep.
and some others. And there are about a dozen that have applied, more or less. The BRICS...
See, he mentioned Ezekiel 38. Because Ethiopia is in there with Egypt, Iran, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates. They all joining, man. America is losing. But it's all the elites. Don't get it twisted. The elites from both sides. Everybody work for the elites. But the elites work for Yahweh Shema Shah. This is the will of Yahweh Shema Shah, man. Because this is all leading to the MOTB being mandatory. Everybody going digital. This is about the one world currency, the one world order, the one world empire.
This is already aggregate GDP larger than the G7. You know, why is this important? Because every country's leaders, whether they are right-wing, left-wing, they're all readjusting to what? To the changing world economy.
Right.
If you're a small African
And who
country
controls the world economy? The elites. The elites, man.
build a railroad. It used to mean you would go to London, New York, Paris, and hope and ask and see if they'll bring their bankers to meet with you, and you could arrange a loan to develop your country. If you're having trouble selling your products, where would you go? If you have your trouble buying, where would you? Now everybody has a second option. You don't have to go west, you go east. Go to New Delhi, go to Beijing. Why? They have more money. I'm exaggerating, but it doesn't have much to do with ideology. Not much. It has to do with a changing world economy. And even if you're a partisan of one or the other, you don't want to be left out of, Emmanuel Macron, the leader currently of France, who's on his way out. His people have rejected him totally. But before that happened, he made noises he wanted to join the BRICS. They turned him down, by the way. They don't need him. The Americans don't get it. When the war in Ukraine breaks out, the Russians invade Ukraine, the United States decides that the way to handle this, to defeat the Russians quickly, is by imposing on them the greatest, the mother of all sanctions. We won't buy Russian oil and gas. Russia depends heavily on oil and gas, which it has a lot of, and exporting it to Europe, which is a consumer. If you understand modern Europe, it's the core of modern Europe's economic success. Cheap Russian energy, and that flows directly until they blow up the pipeline to Germany. So Germany has, after the war, which decimates it, which is German for miracle of economics, the recovery of Germany. Germany becomes the economic powerhouse of Europe. Okay, a lot of truth to that, but a dependence on cheap Russian oil and gas. Okay, so the plan is we won't buy it.
You see this? And it's all Edomites. This is why they use their media in America to push Israelite on Israelite crime. What they say so-called, black on black crime. This is what the so-called white man is doing throughout the four corners of the earth, man. As the scriptures say, they are not on the same page. They are not together. And just as Antiochus Epiphanes, Ptolemy, Cassandra, and Laius Damascus, Alexander Fort Generals. What happened in America? Colonizing America. It was the British, French, and the Spanish fighting against the Edomite American colonizers. All Edomites. So there's four different tribes of Edomites, four different tribes of so-called white people destroying each other, man. Just like with Alexander Fort Generals. There is nothing new under the sun, man. This is Edomites. This is Edomite geopolitics. That's why I take Revelation 13 and I saw a beast come out of the sea with 7 heads and 10 horns. It's an Edomite system, man. And they are not on the same page.
Anymore from you. You'll collapse. Your country will fall apart. Not only will you lose the war in Ukraine, but the West will come and carve you up, which could never be any more important than those Kazakhstan, those countries. That's serious. Biden speaks that way. Blinken, the state secretary, speaks that way. Jake Sullivan, the security advisor, they all speak that way. They believed that. That was all wrong. Russia didn't collapse. What happened? They didn't understand the change in the world because they're lost in the make-believe that it's not over. They didn't understand BRICS. What did the Russians do? They went to their allies, Russia and China. Will you buy the oil that we can't sell to Europe? Done. Deal. No problem. Game over. They couldn't see this coming? They don't know what you know? Of course they know. When the United States, as a corner colony of Britain, decides it wants to do things its own way, the British come down and say, you can't. And the Americans, half of them take it, the other half are pissed off. So then we have a war. But it's very important. The British go to war against the United States, their own colony, to say to the colony, you are not going to go your own way. You're going to do what we tell you. George.
See? That's Revelation. Hold on. Let me get this. Just lock your damn phone. I can find it. You got to get this. Let's go to Jeremiah, right? He said the British say America gonna do what they want them to do. Otherwise, you know what that means. Jeremiah chapter 50, in verse 13, it reads, Jeremiah 50 and 12, your mother shall be sore confounded. She that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness and a dry land in a desert. Your mother shall be sore confounded. She that bare you shall be ashamed. Who is the mother? Great Britain, man. And this is why he's saying this. Revelation 17 and 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. See, he's talking prophecy and don't even know it, man.
The third king sits in England, and George Washington sits here. And the British, to everybody's amazement, including George Washington's, lose the war. 1812, they try again. They fail again, and they reach a conclusion. And so they work out a live and let live deal with their colony, even though they're competitors in many ways. We can work something out, and they do. That will become the American strategy toward China. But it's not speakable yet. And you know, the first politician who says it and says it clearly will be the next president, because it'll be understood, however bitterly, as the best way to go, as it was in England. They didn't like it, they hated it, and they did it. And this country will too. What the is the alternative? Nuclear war? Really? You want to do that? Endless of these proxy wars, and by that I include the one in the Middle East about to explode, absurd games in the South China Sea around Taiwan. So I think all of these are, to bring it back, consequences flowing out of a changed world economic arrangement.
Yeah, he said it, man. It's going to be a nuclear war. Let me get this. This is dealing with the Roman Empire. Hold on here. Let me let some more of this play, and then I'm gonna get this, because I gotta reboot this phone. Let's let some more of this play.
Which can be summarized in a lot of ways: the arrival of the BRICS, the emergence of China, the decline of the American empire. There are a lot of different ways of categorizing or characterizing what's going on, just as there are many ways in which it shapes the American consciousness. I think Americans are very distressed. They get it. There's a reason why MAGA is the slogan. Why? Make America great. They know that there was something lost. The war in Vietnam, forget everything else. It was lost. We lost. The war in Iraq, we lost. The war in Afghanistan, we lost. You know, if you go back and you read Gibbon or anybody else on the decline of the Roman Empire, they call them Vandals, barbarians coming from the Central European steppes that were ripping apart the Roman Empire. We sent 500,000 people to Vietnam. We lost. It's a communist country. In a way, I think that Trump was the first to cash in on this. There's something terribly wrong in this country, and I'm not like the others who pretend it isn't there. I'm not Bush, Republican. I'm not Clinton. I'm going to say naughty things. I think they loved him for that. Many still do. But you know something? That goes nowhere. Never did. And so they don't want that, and they're enough with that. And the poor Trump, he's going right down the tubes now because he's stuck with the persona that had its moment. But now it's over. It doesn't compute. It doesn't do. People are really frightened more and more. They want a cheery person. Got one. And they're going to go for her because she's cheery. She's happy. She's energetic. This image of the two old men in a race to see whose cognitive decline will be quicker. That's the image of the empire. Those two old men having trouble walking up an incline because she's brown and she's going to do it. And he's a nice guy who coaches football. I hope somebody will come along and say, we need to make him a deal between the rich and the poor, and they both are going to have to. What we've had so far is we've had the rich and the powerful in a declining empire using their wealth and power to hold on. And you know what that means? They're offloading the cost of a declining empire on the middle and lower classes. That can't go on. I'm the champion, but I'm saying to the rich and powerful, we're going to take a chunk of what you got. But if we don't, then everything will be lost. And they'll buy it, because they'll be by that time frightened by enough Ukrainians. They'll buy it. Or they won't.
Or they won't. And hear Brother Noy always say that all the time. Let me go. So let's get this. Here's another one. I'm gonna play a little bit of this. I want to read 2 Ezra 11:39. Are not thou it that remaineth of the four beasts, whom I made to reign in my world, that the end of their times may come through them? Come through who? Edomites, man. This is about Edomites. Jeremiah 50:45. Note Jeremiah 49:20. It reads, it's talking about the Edomites. Therefore hear the counsel of Yahweh, that he have taken against Edom, and his proposes that he hath proposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. With who? Edomites on Edomites, man.
Yeah. I want to get into the talk I have for you today, but I want to begin by reminding you of a famous saying. It goes like this: please don't shoot the messenger just because you don't like the message. I am not responsible for the conditions that we face as a nation today.
And what nation? The nation of Edom, man. He talking about Edomites. And this is another Richard Wolff. The end of the U.S. empire and the denial of the U.S. and the rise of China and BRICS.
But I am not going to sugarcoat what the situation is. My guess is you already know it in your hearts and in the backs of your minds, if not in the front.
They all know it.
And if you had any doubt, last week's election results probably removed them. So I thought it might be useful if we took stock of where we are here on the 10th of November, 2024. And by taking stock, I mean economics above all else. I do that because I think that's a core part of our situation about which Americans are extraordinarily poorly informed. I also do it because it's what I do for a living and it's what I study. And I feel an obligation, morally, ethically, to share with you what is going on, to make sure that however difficult it may be to face it, we will, because that's our best chance to work out of it and to get beyond it.
You heard what he just said? What the Lord told Ezekiel. Ezekiel 33, Ezekiel 3, warn the Israelites, wash their blood off your hand. That's what he just said, man. That's what he just said. He here to warn you the fall of the American empire. If you don't know, if you got doubts, if you thinking Trump gonna make America great again, he's here to warn you that it's all gonna fall. And he's giving you straight skinny, washing his hands, washing your blood off his hands. He talked to the Edomites though. Talk to the Edomites, washing their blood off his hands to warn them that this place is finna crumble. That's what he just said, man. But it's for the whole collective filter everything that's being said through the scriptures, through the words of Yahweh Shema Shah.
Which surely we need to do.
Yep. Gotta do it.
Okay, let me get into it then, and I'll try to make it as brief as such a task could possibly be. I do believe we are at a major transition point in the history of the United States and probably of the whole world.
Yep.
I know that sounds grandiose, and I don't normally talk in grandiose terms.
That's The Daniel 7. Was that 7 and 18? Let me see if I can get this. Daniel 7 and 18 it reads, but the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. And then in Daniel 2, when it said the stone that was cut out with our hands. This is a transition of power, man. You heard him. This Richard Wolff, man. He's an economist, man.
But the situation calls for it. And as I say, I'm not going to shrink away from why I think this. So let me begin by telling you why I think it's such an important...
See, he said he's not going to shrink away from why he think this. What Paul said, I have not shunned to declare unto you the whole counsel of Yahweh Shema Shah, man. And Richard Wolff give you the straight skinny. See, it's all spiritual, man. Left hand side and right hand.
Moment in our history. For most of the last 50 years, roughly since 1970, the dominant economic reality of the global economy and of the United States as the major player and shaper of that global economy in the last 50 years, that period can be characterized by many names, but the one that economists use is the phrase neoliberal globalization. And here's what it means. That in an era that we remember with names like Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher, we turned away from the legacy of the New Deal. We turned away, as did many other countries, from the notion that a catastrophe like the Great Depression of the 1930s required that government play a major role in keeping capitalism tolerable for the mass of people. Remember what we did in the 1930s. We established Social Security that had never existed before in the United States. We established a minimum wage that had never existed before in the United States. We established unemployment insurance that had never existed before in the United States. And the government hired and paid 15 million people who were unemployed, and nothing like that had ever happened in the United States either. The government was called in to do all these things, in the words of one clever thinker, to give capitalism a human face. And it was paid for because it was very expensive, as you can imagine. To give every elderly American a Social Security check every month for the rest of their lives.
The image of the beast.
To give unemployed people a check every week for a year or two.
The image of the beast.
To hire 15 million people. And the money that paid for all of that were heavy taxes placed on corporations and the rich. It's an important reminder for those of you who do not think that here in the United States we can ever tax corporations and the rich. It's an important reminder, of course we can, because we already did.
The image of the beast, man. Roman Empire.
As the remembrance, a footnote, the politician who had the courage to tax corporations and the rich Franklin Roosevelt was reelected president 3 consecutive times. He has been and is to this moment the most successful popular president in the history of the United States, starting with George Washington. So not only can you tax corporations and the rich, but when we had a president who was forced from below to do it, he became the most popular politician we've ever had. In the period starting 1970, as the memory of the New Deal, as it was called, faded, Reagan and Thatcher undertook to roll the New Deal back. It had already begun before that, but it really gathered steam. And the mantra was the reverse of the New Deal. Instead of calling the government in to give capitalism a human face, people stumbled over one another, led by the Republicans, but tragically followed by the Democrats.
It's called Revelation 13. It say, let me read it. They wanted after the beast and said, who is able to make war with the beast, man? This is what Esau Edom did. Revelation 13:4. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? See? See how they speak in code, but don't know what they speaking? Prophecy, man.
To roll the government back, to get the government out of the economy, to go back to a capitalism which, if I may be allowed to continue the metaphor, lacks a human face, as the songs we just heard today document. And over the last 50 years, the government not only didn't regulate the way it once did, didn't intervene the way it once did, but it blessed the decision of corporate America to go where the profits were the greatest, which is what capitalism normally does. And where were profits the greatest? Answer: China. Starting in the 1970s, we had a mammoth exodus, and not like the one in the Bible. No, this was an exodus of American corporate leaders. They had graduated from business school where they had been taught, parentheses, I have taught in business schools myself, I know the curriculum. They were taught, if you want to succeed in business, go to where the wages are low and the market is expanding. The place where the wages were low and the market was expanding the most was in the land called the People's Republic of China. And American corporations, British and French and German and Italian and Japanese, they all went to China, where they were welcomed, where they were celebrated. And over the last 40 to 50 years, the Chinese economy grew. About half the economy there is capitalist. Private companies working pretty much the way they do here. The other half of the Chinese economy is government-owned and operated enterprises working the way they once did in places like the Soviet Union. China is a hybrid between the US and the Soviet Union. Different from both because it's a mixed situation. And it turns out that under the leadership of the Chinese Mao Zedong and the ones that have come since him, it turns out this hybrid organization can grow faster than any other economic system the world has ever seen.
So, I want to read this in Job 24 and 23. Though it be given him to be in safety, whereon he resteth, to him is the Edomites. Yet his eyes are upon their ways. The Lord's eyes are upon the so-called white man's ways, which is the angels. Though it be given him to be in safety, whereon he resteth, for this is their kingdom, yet his eyes are upon their ways. They are exalted for a little while, but are gone and brought low. They are taken out of the way as all other. They are taken out of the way as all other, and cut off as the tops of the ears of corn. And if it be not so, now, who will make me a liar and make my speech nothing worth? This empire is crumbling. Let me get this. Isaiah 14:11. It reads, Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vows, the worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? You elites, how you been cut down? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weakest the nations? The Lord gave them the power, and he's taking it away. Yahweh Shema Shah is taking the power of the so-called white man away. I'm going to close with this. Isaiah 47:1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Talking to the so-called white man. What did King David say in Psalms 137? Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom. Right? The daughters of Babylon. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans. The so-called white man is the modern-day Chaldeans. He's the modern-day Egyptians. The elites. The so-called white man is the modern-day Pharaoh. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. And when it said, come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon, it goes back to Genesis chapter 3. In verse 14, it reads, And Yahweh said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, meaning be the basis of men, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. That dust is confusion. So, welcome back. Welcome back to the dust, you so-called white people. Welcome back. Lord was edifying. I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rikak, Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and the bishop and elders of great millstone who rule well, who teach well, who are the apostles and elders of all Israel, right except the night. In the sincere salutation to all the ark and pushing this truth and believing this truth with the four winds of the earth and the entire world. Shed light to the whole elect. Shalom to the wife who are listening, learning. If you sister who are listening, learning, for tuning in, may you have by Shema Shaka continue and bless you in your houses. May the blessing of Alexa be upon your house. Until next time, I say Shalom, Wa, Ba. Ecclesiastes 33:12. Let's read 10. And all men are from the ground, and Adam was created of earth. In much knowledge, the Lord hath divided them and made their ways diverse. Some of them have he blessed and exalted, and some of them have he sanctified and set near himself. But some of them have he cursed and brought low. and turned out of their places. What it said in Job 24. Let's close with that again. Job 24 and 24. They are exalted for a little while, but are gone and brought low. Back to the bases of men, back to the dust. They are taken out of the way as all other what? All other kingdoms. You heard him mention the Greeks, the Medes and Persians, the Romans, Babylon Empire. Yep. Babylon the Great. Come down to sit in the dust. It said in Jeremiah 51. Let me close with this. Jeremiah 51 and verse 7. Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her. Take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. We will have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go everyone into his own country, for her judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies. Shalom, wa Abababal.